Welcome to the Lunar Portal Podcast with Morgan
and Ina. We are the faces and voices behind the Lunar Portal Moon Guide and Calendar, a project fueled by our shared passion for aligning with natural rhythms and holding spaces for playful curiosity and empowered living.
You are now entering a cosmic space in which we aim to have an intergalactic conversation with each other and with you.
We hope these conversations offer us all an opportunity to continuously discover the landscape of our own unique inner universe while allowing the energies of the moon to inform our personal and collective essence and experience with every passing phase.
We are thrilled and excited to have you along for this conversational journey. Unscripted and off the cuff, we never really know what might emerge or come to light as we share ideas, insights, and our own experiences with cyclical living, continuously attuning ourselves more deeply to the moon and our own womb as she passes through all the cosmic energies present in the galactic universe around and within us.
With curiosity and a passion for self-inquiry, combined with our desire to be witness to the collective shifts of our times, all we really know is that we will be traversing many realms, from the shadowy subconscious underworld to the imaginative possibilities of what a new existence on Earth might look like, all while exploring this question of how does the moon in all her many phases and faces inform and guide our life experience.
Yeah, how do we get started?
Good question.
I actually really appreciate it when I listen to things that are less scripted and you're like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, that's true. And it feels more authentic as well. It's not
because I feel like so much in life is scripted, even like our own mental scripts of like conversations that we have with people and stuff, right? They can be so scripted. But yeah, well, let's dive into the lunar portal.
I love that.
I feel like because one of the curiosities from one of the portal journeyers was like, how did this come to be? How did we get started in co-creating together? I feel like that's a nice place to dive in. Yes. Because always interesting and curious to know, like, how did something spark into being?
Yeah, that's so true. It just I find it also interesting now that I have to answer that question myself, that it isn't like only this one spark. It feels like it has been a continuous journey and that just came out of it, because I feel, the way we've collaborated now for, it feels like years, just by, a few years ago when I started coming to your sacred writing circle online. And it's such a fluid process that then to really pinpoint a moment is really hard. I feel it has been like bubbling under the surface, and just our different creations, I feel align. Like, I feel we come from so many different angles already and values, which was like why I was so excited when I came across your writing circle for the first time, because I thought like, whoa, this exists. It just spoke so much to me. And I feel that's the foundation on which so much stands that we do together.
Yeah, I can see that too. And as you were talking, I was thinking about how the writing circle has also now started informing some of the lunar portal creations too. And like, so it's like this, I'm seeing it as like an infinity symbol of like this continuous weaving of creativity and expression that's just like cycling through all these different layers. And like you said, there's not necessarily one spark that created the lunar portal, but like all of these different pinpoints, like a galaxy just sparkling away in the sky.
True. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
love that you started like bringing in writing prompts into the circle that actually then also begin the flow for the creation of the lunar portal and what we share there. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that someone suggested to me years ago, I feel like at this point, that like to just it's along the lines of like working smarter, not harder. And I'm definitely all about like we've spoken about effortlessness and just letting things flow and like finding more ways for things to like interconnect, and how it can be so daunting sometimes when you're doing entrepreneurial stuff and you've got all these different lines of communication, like a newsletter that maybe you're trying to get out on a regular basis, or you're posting things to different places and have all these different seemingly separate aspects that all tie into the same thing, but maybe they're not tying in very well. And you're like doing more work than you need to be. And I feel like I'm finally at a place now, and I feel like the lunar portal is a big part of that too, where these things are really starting to like flow effortlessly together, and it's all just making sense. And I can attribute that, I feel like, to the cyclical nature of the lunar portal, and just like it's not even, yes, in a certain way it's intentional, but it's not like I've sat down and been like, okay, how do I tie all these pieces together? It's just become that. Like, it's just, oh, look at this. Oh, it's all like there's a coherence that is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that is such a beautiful point that which I find really encouraging, because I feel part of our vision of the lunar portal was like to really tap into natural rhythms and effortless flow, and really leaning into our innate resources that we have and our intuition, and connect that to a different way of cyclical living, so that we can experience like things just falling into place and making sense in a whole new way. And I love that that's actually happening for us, like while we are creating it. And in the same way, I feel individual, but also together, like the process of how we are creating it feels to me very organic. And sometimes it seems, I think you said that a while back, like every time it seems like we don't have really deadlines or anything that's kind of a structure that's holding us and pushing us, but it keeps coming together, and that just feels kind of magical and surprising every time, but it happens. And I feel that's part of the power of the lunar portal as well. The process you tap into is this effortlessness where things can just start to flow and make sense, that before felt like separate aspects. And
yeah, I feel it's like the lunar portal has created a foundation, which is something that I know has come up in our conversations recently too. It was like a foundation for all these other things to like rest upon in a way. Yeah, which feels really nourishing. And I think that's my hope too for other people's experience, is that, it's been described as like a toolkit and like a soft pillow to like navigate towards when you need some gentle guidance in your life, or just a support system. And yeah, I think for me that's a hope that this creation is just this nice place that people can come to, whether, I don't know if place is the right word, but just this like, this support that people can gravitate towards.
Absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. That becomes that like becomes a foundational piece in their life. Maybe not the foundational piece, but like a foundational piece. And I think we can have many different parts to the foundations of our lives. And yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it also speaks to what came up in one of our lunar portal gatherings the other day, that the power of intention. And for me, that speaks to the power of letting things unfold within the pages of our lives without us having to constantly be there and poke it and push it, but just trusting in this power that we have through just putting our awareness somewhere, or really having a vision of something that needs to emerge or needs to be focused on. And then we can actually see that throughout the month unravel in our life and really make a difference. And I feel that can be all kinds of things, but maybe something sometimes also challenging. So I feel then have like all of those things that we bring, like meditation or writing or a playlist to move to, and also the supporting writings we offer and insights. I feel that's just a beautiful thing to know you can stretch and reach, but you don't have to be so forceful about it, and you can be supported and held in that. So I feel that's it's a gentle way of being really directional and intentional with my life. That's how it feels, and that's how it has felt like the last few months. So I would also be really curious, because you started asking about what was the spark, how did it start? So what is it for you? Like, how did it begin for you, the lunar portal journey?
Well, I mean, it began with you presenting the idea to me.
That was very subtle of me to ask it that way. Brought it all back to me.
You, if I remember correctly, and my memory can be a little abstract sometimes, but you, told me you had this idea, and we got together on a Zoom call one afternoon, and you told me about your idea, and I was like, that sounds amazing. I love it. And yeah, it just felt like, even though we didn't know exactly what that was going to be, because I don't think it was completely mapped out for you. Tell me if I'm wrong, but just the idea of it, of blending the galaxy paintings with your portal timer, and then adding some insights and guidance around the different moon cycles. It just felt like a natural thing to create and to like emerge from both of us. And one thing that I've really loved since the beginning of the creation of it is this like impulse to create more galaxy paintings, because I had made 33, not necessarily intentionally 33, but that was just how many had been created since I started painting them. And they've all had a life of their own already in different projects, and finding their way into different people's homes and stuff. And then this idea to like start creating more galaxy paintings, and that process has been so fun and has taken me deeper into each moon cycle, like the anticipation, I guess, more so of each moon cycle, because I'm obviously painting them before we enter the particular lunar portal. But I guess what I'm saying is that I'm really grateful for the inspiration to create more galaxy paintings, because it's so far been such a like rich addition to my creative process, to like have a reason now, not that I needed a reason, but to have a reason to like, ooh, there's gonna be time in my week or in the month or whatever in the moon cycle that I'm gonna sit down and like intentionally create some more galaxy paintings. And that has been like a spark from what you initially presented that has carried forth and like created all of these extra sparkly moments in my life where I like sitting down to intuitively choose colors and just go through the whole process of creating the layers of the galaxies. And yeah, every step of the process of creating those paintings is like such a joy for me. And I often do it by dim light in the dark of the night. And so it's like a surprise sometimes the next day when I'm like, oh, look how this looks in the light. And I that's like also a like a whole experience in itself of moving between like the dark and the light, and how galaxies themselves and like the night sky are a mix of that too, right? A mix of like the darkness and the light. And yeah, I could go on forever probably, but I don't know if that answered your question of how the spark of the lunar portal began for me, but I think it may have.
Absolutely. I love that element of surprise that you're describing, because that's just, I mean, I've found your galaxy painting so beautiful for such a long time. And every time you create a new one, I'm always surprised. And for me, it's really the energetic foundation for and the creative inspiration for then creating the lunar portal. So apart from the obvious inspiration of the sun sign the new moon lands in, and the wisdom we gain from that, and the insights we have around the topics that also emerge out of that as the focus point for the lunar portal, I feel the initial inspiration and the spark for me every month is really your beautiful galaxy painting and what it evokes in me and where it takes me, because I feel it's just so powerful how they really draw you in and have you have a like experience of full galactic experience, but also make it very personal. So that has been a huge inspiration every month for me for the rest of the creation of it. So I love that it sparked that creative space for you to expand your paintings. And really, I love what you described of the difference between creating them in the semi-darkness and then the next morning they appear in the light. And yeah,
it's a fun process for sure. One of my favorite parts of it all, although I enjoy the whole process, I'm always like mesmerized every time I remove the tape from the outer edges of the paper. It's just like the whole painting comes alive in a different way that I haven't been able to see until the tape comes off. And I don't know if it's the blank space that is created like around the galaxy, you know, with like a white border, or I don't know what it is. Like I can't pinpoint for sure what that is, but it's like as soon as I start removing the tape, I'm like, oh my goodness, look at this galaxy come alive.
Yeah, that's truly how they feel to me. They are alive, they are breathing, and that's so powerful.
So the other major aspect, although I feel like each part is equally as important in these lunar portals, but I would say the other major aspect is your portal timer that, you know, is an integral piece of the what we might call the timekeeping or the cyclical living aspect of this creation. And I want to hear a little bit more about your process with that.
I created the portal timer 7 years ago now, out of a desire to really feel supported and held by the way I connected to time and what that actually means to me. And also I really explored quite deeply the cyclical living and really tapping into the wisdom of the menstrual cycle, and how once I start actually living from the outside in, or attempt to, how much more sense everything makes, and how I can actually access my intuition better and also take action from a completely different, more empowered feeling place. And so I'd explored that for quite some time before that, but always got kind of stuck in, how do I know all of that and I feel all of that, like when I meditate or when I'm dancing or when I'm in my own space. But then actually the moment I try to implement that in my life, I found that quite hard. So I feel that was probably something that had been working inside of me for quite some time. And then timekeeping, or whatever we want to call it, felt like such a vital point, because that obviously, for me, obviously felt like that's a crunch point where I keep like losing my center and start listening to, outside concepts that might not actually resonate with me, but set up the way I then try to live and organize my life. And so, I just sat down one evening and it just kind of happened. I can't explain it a different way. I just wanted to create a calendar and really asked myself, so what would I do? And then immediately I drew a circle and I realized I wanted to, and then it was clear, like, oh, I want to go in a circle. I want to put the dates in a circle, and then also make it a practice where it's all about, carrying insight, intentions and wisdoms and what arises in a moment out into my active everyday life. So that had then the circle in the middle appear, to put an intention in, or something that becomes a focus point or an attention for the whole lunar cycle, and then have the fractals around it, like each day, to actually check in with that and put something in there that might reflect back to the center, but might also just be something that's really important in the moment each day. And so through bringing the dates of the traditional calendar together with this intention of coming from a space that connects my internal rhythms, because I also use the portal time and have since then, to be really aware of my cyclical body. And so that informs very much how I schedule everything in my life, because it's so powerful how different energies are alive inside of me and make things really hard to do or really easy to do depending on where I'm at. And so it really became that bridge that I had looked for so long, of knowing something inside so strongly and being rooted in my intuition, but how do I actually inform my everyday life and bring that together with having a diary, having a calendar, scheduling things in my life and taking action in the world. So and then I've tried to share that for a long time, and it didn't really work that well. And so it's really magical for me all these years later to see it come alive in this whole different way now in our lunar portal. And it feels like, now that I'm looking back, it feels like, oh yeah, of course, that's how it had to be. But it's so, I still remember the frustration in the beginning and thought like, I want to share that with people. I feel it can make such a difference, because it did in my own life. It really changed so much. But so it feels very powerful and magical, and also really beautiful to be finally able to share it in a context that makes sense and feels nourishing, and like it makes sense, like the way we've set it up and the way it's held in the lunar portal. And that's my journey in a nutshell.
I think it's it's just beautiful to speak to the power of collaboration too, right? When these different ideas and creative sparks that we have individually that are having their own unique impact in our own lives. And I feel like, similarly to you, not necessarily with my galaxy paintings, but with different things that I've created in life. And you're just like, this is so like important to me, and it's helped me so much. I want more people to have the opportunity. It can be frustrating and like patience teaching to go through that process of just having something maybe more as our own before it becomes something that is, more out into the world. And I'm curious to the 7-year aspect. I feel like we all have our own, for me, and maybe it's from what I've learned through different teachings over the years, but there seems to be a 7-year pattern for a lot of things. And 7 years of these different points in our lives that things change. And if we look back, for me anyway, it has become clear that there has been that 7-year cycle in my life. Even just I know a lot of my memories, strong memories as a child, occurred when I was 7 years old, when I think about different things that I was starting to realize in life, or new things that were coming into my consciousness. I'm oh, I was 7 when that happened, and I was 7 when that happened, and I was 7 when that happened. And yeah, it's a curiosity of mine, not one that I'm necessarily asking you to answer or anything, but just that 7-year cycle of something, and then how it can shift. And clearly the portal timer calendar has shifted after being in existence for 7 years, and it's merged into this project that we've created together, where we're now collaborating on bringing our sparks of inspiration that we've had, and bringing them together into this new realm. I just find it fascinating, but I definitely don't have an answer to it, but just taking note of the 7-year cycle.
I find that a really fascinating point that you just made. I haven't really thought about it in that way before, but now that I do, while you were talking, I just realized, I feel 7 years old is a point that I find where I was a really wild child for a while, really connected to my intuition and different realms, and just quite fearless. And that actually all stopped, or began to stop, when I was 7. And so I feel a lot of the creations I bring into the world, and definitely the portal timer as well, have been kind of reconnecting me to that that what also always feels like the time before, it feels like before taming of some kind occurred, or something really shifted so drastically. And I haven't thought further than that, 7 years further, and then 7 years. I don't know. I would have to really sit with that. But probably there are actually quite significant thresholds in all of those 7-year marks. So I find that really interesting. That you bring that up. I have to think about that. Do you want to talk a little bit about the current lunar portal, which is our 3rd one in Sagittarius?
Yeah, I feel like talking about the 3rd one that we have just created needs a slight preamble from the first 2 that we created too, because I feel like the first one, and I think, if I am correct in this, that when we decided we were going to do this project together, as I feel like you recently mentioned that you were thinking we would give ourselves 3 months to create the first one. And
well-intentioned.
I was oh, what about we try to get one started for the Libra new moon, because we both have very strong Libra energy in our charts. And that was kind of what I was thinking, let's let that one be the first, so that it is really infused with our own personal energy. And because for me, Libra energy has a lot to do with relationships. And so bringing the spirit of collaboration and relationships together, it just felt like the perfect timing to launch this project into the world, and a really nice foundation for us to create this. So the first one, we used a galaxy painting that I had already, but I don't remember which one of us chose that? Do you?
I feel it was the one that I, when I created the first draft of putting the portal timer and the galaxy together, it was just the one that I chose intuitively when I went through, the galaxy paintings you had shared over time. And it was just, it was just the one that's, stuck out for me and that I really connected to. So, I feel that's all the reasoning that's behind it.
Yeah, and it wasn't an intuitive thing for you too, right? So,
Yes.
and when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that looks really beautiful. I love the colors, and it felt very fitting for the theme that emerged for that lunar portal, which was
Mm.
harmony. And it just felt all, so fitting. And I love that it was an intuitive pick for you,
Yeah.
which, does lead us into the Sagittarius portal, which is all about, not all about, but focuses a lot on the intuitive impulses that we can have and strengthening our intuitive connection. But in between that harmony portal and the what we have called the Earth intuition lunar portal, we had the transformation and liberation portal of Scorpio, which I think, as we're recording this, we are on the very tail end of that. And it's was an important piece too, although it may have been challenging for both of us and maybe everyone who portaled along with us too. It was also like a nice guiding post as well, just to like hold us in that power of transformation and liberation. And for me, it really felt like we were moving through individually and collectively, I would say, this sense of like we went from this place of working with harmony and moving through relational challenges or like strengthening aspects of our relationships in the Libra portal, and then into this space of like, okay, what needs to be transformed and liberated in order for us to really integrate what we just went through in the Libra portal, and probably also integrate more things that are going to be coming up in this moon cycle and potentially clear away some things that needed to be cleared and transformed ultimately to come into this space of really listening and tuning into the way our own bodies are connected to the earth and that the earth is connected to us, and strengthening that sense of like being at one with the earth as our, like as humans individually and collectively. And so just the cycle through all of that feels very, very flowy. Even though there's been some whirlpools and like maybe some waterfalls that we weren't expecting. But it's come into this place of like, here we are as ready as we can be, whatever that looks like, for us to settle into this space of earth intuition in the Sagittarius portal.
Yeah, I loved how you just created that arc, because definitely in our process of creating it, it really feels like a landing platform right now, like the third one, the Sagittarius one that we're just moving into. And it's like this. The first step has its own intensities, like the harmony, the first one, the harmony, a lunar portal. But there is also this lightness I feel that comes with creating something for the first time and stepping into it and birthing it. Although it's an intense process, it somehow has a lightness of its own. And I feel often in my experience creating something, or even in life, the second step is the unexpected, more intense, like really then confronting you with the aftermath of that birth in a way, time. And so that's how the Scorpio lunar portal felt to me. Beautiful and powerful, but also really intense. And I feel like so much came up, and wanted to be really embraced and embodied in a very conscious way. And so I agree, like what you said, like now it feels like yeah, we've moved all through all of that. And so for me, it feels like the promise of getting to really enjoy it this time. Obviously with its up and downs, but yeah, and really settle into this powerful theme of intuition. I'm really looking forward to that.
I am too, and I'm glad that you brought the word confront into it. And I think you were just talking about how Scorpio portal like was confronting in some ways.
Mm.
And I like that because I think a lot of the time we can stray from confrontation because we think that it's going to be too much to deal with. But ultimately, we are always faced with we're always faced with being confronted by things in life, right? Whether it's with other people or just with like ideas that we have. And for me, that this time through the Scorpio portal was, like you said, confronting in a lot of ways. But it was like having the courage and making the choice to just embrace those confrontations and not be
Mm.
like scared of them, and just be like, you know what, I think I have enough tools in my life so far in this moment that I can handle these like confronting moments of life where you're like, damn, this is not easy, but I'm gonna do my best to get through it. And yeah, I really like that you brought that word into it, because it's a word that a lot of us, from my perspective, tend to avoid, and a thing that we tend to avoid too. And it was just a really nice opportunity through this last moon cycle to witness what, for me anyway, like what I was confronted with, and just keep coming back to that place of courage of being like, okay, no, I can do this. I can keep facing
Mm.
these things. And that is for me what is transformative, right? Is like just having the courage to be like, okay, this is not easy, but I'm going to try my best to move through it in some way.
Yeah, and I feel that's actually a part of the magic of the lunar portal for me is that it's making that tiny bit easier to really go those places and actually go anywhere, because I feel even looking at our dreams or our hopes or our desires can be really, really confronting, even the beautiful things. And it comes with a lot of fear for me of isolation and separation, like alienating someone or yeah, things like that. And I feel that's part of the lunar portal because we try to create a communal feeling and have these monthly gatherings as well, where everybody who journeys with the lunar portal has an opportunity to check in and we share our experiences. And that has been so enriching and empowering and gave me that feeling of being held. Yeah, also dissolving some of those fears of separation and actually revealing them as an illusion, and that's so powerful to feel connected in whatever we individually decide to focus on. And I feel no matter in what direction it goes, that requires some amount of courage, and to make that as easeful and as gentle as possible, I feel has a lot to do for me with not feeling alone in the whole process. So that's one thing I really, really appreciate about the lunar portal, the sense of community that is slowly weaving into existence, and the gatherings we have and the way we are able to share and then see like, wow, somebody is actually experiencing something similar, or that's a slightly different experience, but I can relate to it nevertheless. I really love that. That creates a whole sense of nourishment, I feel, that wasn't there before.
I love what you said about bringing that sense of separation, like kind of bringing that to the point of like, no, that was an illusion all
Mm.
along. And for me, astrology has been that in a sense for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, because our experiences in life can feel very individual, right? And they
Yeah.
are to a certain extent. But when I started like learning more about astrology and working with astrologers and stuff, at different points in my life, I was like, oh, this is also a collective experience that is going on. And that, like you said, for yourself too, it's just like creates this sense of like, oh, I'm not in this alone. Like there's many people experiencing something similar or feeling this energetic that is like sweeping through the collective. And yeah, it's just, for me also, it's created that sense of a deeper sense of connection and merging the individual experience with the collective experience, which I find is always a helpful thing as we move through life in general, but also as we move through this time on Earth, where, from my perspective, we've been unknowingly conditioned to be very individualistic. And there's always been this piece inside of me that's like, this doesn't feel right to be like moving into a space of more and more individualism, even though it felt like kind of natural for me to do. I feel so much more aligned with myself in an interesting way, because I have a better grasp and understanding on the collective experience that we're all having. I don't know if that was a little spirally.
Well, it was perfect. It was perfect in its spirally nature, because I feel that's exactly it. And I feel that's where, for me, so many aspects come together in the lunar portal, because I feel we lean very strongly into really claiming our very individual viewpoint and what emerges out of us. But actually realizing when we connect to something that is a collective experience, but not shaped by a human interpretation of what sorts, in the sense of news or what's happening in the world. And not that there is anything wrong with that, but I feel that creates often a very specific atmosphere in which we then all sit in, and it stirs a lot of division, I feel, and even strengthens the sense of separation, and really heightens a sense of individuality that is not actually healthy. Like this really like, okay, then it's just going to be all about me. And so I feel by leaning into a different sense what collective can mean, by attuning to the nature, moon, and really linking that to our intuition and making that a flowing experience, like one is actually not disconnected from the other, but bringing those two things together then creates a harmony between the unique and the universal. And I feel that's just something that the lunar portal for me really allows, to stand stronger in that individual intuition through being connected to a sense of the collective that is tapping into an awareness of what it is to be on Earth together, and then relating to bigger aspects of the Earth actually moving to space, through space, and making it like a zoomed out experience of really placing ourselves in a bigger context. Yeah, so I love what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. It what you just said about like moving into the galaxies and having that zoomed out experience, it reminded me of like this conversation that has come up several times in my life, and that I've heard people talk about more times than I've had a conversation about it. But that concept of when, as a human, we look up to the sky at night and see all those stars, and what I've heard a lot of people say to me is that it makes them feel really insignificant, and like that they're just this tiny little speck in this grand universe that we live in. And that surprised me to hear that the first time, I think, and then I got more used to hearing it from other people, because my experience has always been that when I've looked up to the night sky and seen all of these stars and had this understanding of like, wow, I can't even comprehend like how far that goes, and like how many layers and and galaxies exist beyond what I can see, has given me a sense of significance.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like a really integral and important piece of existence. And I think that kind of comes back to that sense of the individual and the collective, right? It's like just weaving that of like, no, like why I am here as an individual actually matters, because like I exist within this amazing universe. And so there must be like a good reason for that. And but it's never been like, I don't know, it's been a sense of like, I think you used the word harmony too, and I don't know if it was quite in relation to this, but this harmony that happens between like me as an individual and the collective experience of the, what we might call the universe. And it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, 100%. That deeply resonates. And I feel it's the perfect ending for our first episode.
I think so too.
Thank you for listening to the Lunar Portal Podcast.
It has been an absolute pleasure to be accompanied by you in this conversation through this lunar portal as we journeyed together through this time and space. We hope the lunar portal offered you spaces of nourishment and inspiration through the changing tides of your life.
If this sparked your curiosity, have a look at the Lunar Portal Moon Calendar and Guidebook, a gently guided resource kit that includes a moon calendar, a galaxy painting, a meditation, a playlist to move to, writing prompts, a ritual, and lots of information, inspiration and wisdom around this new moon in Sagittarius, the topic of Earth intuition and the energies present right in this moment. We would love to accompany you and hold you on your journey to embrace your own pace, connect to your intuition, make space for your well-being, and establish a deep trust in what you know with small acts of awareness each day. You can find all the information you need in the links below, and feel free to connect to either of us with any questions or curiosities you might have around the Lunar Portal Inner Galactic Moon Guide. For now, we want to say
thank you for your courage, curiosity, and trust. We feel honored and blessed that you chose to venture into this conversation of this lunar cycle on a journey of discovering our own and your inner landscape.
We hope to see your return so we can journey together with the next coming moon.